Fine now, live stream to YouTube. Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and this program is about the evolution, I would say, of our body, mind, and spirit. And of course, I would like to, every other week, I talk to Doc Wallach and questions sometimes by Carolyn Clancy about the latest update in health and what he feels most important to contribute to an ongoing longevity. So Doc, welcome. And you have some updates for us right now. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And just briefly, for those that don't know me, what makes me different is I have a degree in agriculture. My major is in animal husbandry and nutrition. My minor is in field crops and soils. I have a degree in veterinary medicine and worked on big white rhino and elephant.
Yeah.
$25 million grant. Are we off the air? Are we on the air?
No, we're good. You just froze for a second, but we're good. Keep going.
Okay. And so Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual Omaha Kingdom show, using my study on the first mass die-off in America from pollution, which I was the pathologist on the project, wrote it up and got it published in 2 scientific journals. He got a $25 million grant from NIH to work with Washington University and the Center for the Biology of Natural Systems to do autopsies of animals that die in the big zoos in the big cities, and do autopsies of the people who die in the big cities, same big cities, and look for a canary in the mine kind of thing. You know, everybody knows about the canaries in the coal mines, and they took the canaries down in there because if the gases would come in, the canaries were more sensitive than the men, they would die, and then the men knew to get out. Well, we had this idea that because of that mass die-off that I did, it was in animals, okay, and got it figured out to a pollutant. And so if we were to do autopsies of animals, so all 457 different species in the big zoos in the big cities of North America and Europe, we'd find a couple of species of animals were sensitive to the same pollutants we were, okay, because in the 1960s, everybody knew everybody was going to die in 30 seconds from pollution. Okay, that was a big, big pollution time. And so to make a long story short, from April of 1967 to 1977, 10 years, I did 20,000 autopsies. Big zoos and people in the big cities, Barnes Hospital in St. Louis and Washington University, the Center for the Biology of Natural Systems, Marlon Perkins, and Barry Commoner, who's the head of that department. Okay, and so to make a long story short, I did 20,000 autopsies. I had 17,000 and some change of over 454 species of animals and 3,000 humans. And right after that, Dr. Milan and I went to China. We did 1,700 autopsies on kids under the age of 10, and we figured out a lot of stuff with all that material, of course. And my thesis, W.B. Saunders, they put a hard cover on it and made it into a textbook. It was 5,000 pages, 20,000 autopsies. Mm-hmm. And it sold for $25,000 each. Today, amazing. You can go to Amazon today or Siri and ask for a used copy of that book. And you can get them if they're beat up and the dog has peed on them. You can get them for $4,500. If they're in bad condition, you get them for $6,000 to $10,000. If they're in good condition, you get them from $10,000 to $15,000. If they're still in the box, in the wrapper, never open, you get them for $25,000 to $35,000.
Why are they so valuable?
Who has done 20,000 autopsies on 454 species of vertebrates?
Right.
Okay. Right. It tells the story. It's unimpeachable evidence here. And so what did we get for that? What was our positive benefit from that? You know, other than the royalties and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
So what was the positive benefit here? What I learned was nobody in the big cities died from pollution. No zoo animals died from pollution. The pollution issue was a lie. Okay.
Well,
it was
actually still a problem. We don't want to breathe unhealthy air, right?
Well, I'll let you give the lecture.
No, I'm just asking. Do we want to? What? Go ahead. I'm interested.
Okay. We have to double the time if you're going to keep asking me questions before I open my mouth.
No, do your thing. Go ahead. I'm just curious. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Well, curiosity is good, but remember, it killed the cat. Okay. So at any rate, what I learned was that there were no genetically transmitted diseases in those 20,000 autopsies. All the diseases that doctors said were genetic, which they were talking about since the early 1900s, all these new genetic diseases caused by pollution and so forth. And turns out there are no genetically transmitted diseases. There are no genetically transmitted birth defects. They're all nutritional deficiencies.
Right.
Okay. And so I along with, let's see here, Bruce Lipton, like Lipton tea, Bruce Lipton, he and I are two of the fathers of the science of epigenetics. Right. And I wrote a big textbook on epigenetics, and they sell like crazy for about, not 25,000, but $25 each. Okay. But right. It's the science of epigenetics. So here's what makes this important here. I have the experience and the powers of observation because of all this, okay, that most people don't have. It's not a thing that you're born with, but I have training that nobody else on earth has. So let's just look. When you look at the people who are most sensitive to the COVID-19, you're looking at the Native Americans, the indigenous peoples, you're looking at the Black race, and you're looking at the Latinos, and then everybody else is kind of down there somewhere, but those are the top three when it comes to percentages of deaths per 100. Okay. Right, and right. So everybody says it's a racial thing. It's a racial thing. No, absolutely 1000% is not a racial thing. It's a diet. It's their diet. It's a cultural thing. It's a diet. Well, let's look at two things that control the rate of death from COVID. We're not going to talk vaccinations until after this part.
Okay. Okay.
We know that when a 3-year-old gets COVID-19, they get 3 days of common cold-like symptoms. Their body temperature goes up a half a degree from 98.6 to 99. You came in class that as a fever. They have the antibodies against the virus. It's over with. No problem. None of them die. You get a 53-year-old, a 33-year-old, a 43-year-old, a 63-year-old, a 73-year-old get COVID. They're in the hospital for a month or 2 or 3. They're on, we scoured the earth and we spent billions of dollars looking for ventilators for all these people dying in the hospitals from COVID-19, right? There's a big hoo-ha. And so what's the difference between a 63-year-old and a 3-year-old? And so I looked at that and I said, oh, well, that's easy. The 3-year-old's only been eating gluten for 3 years, and the 63-year-old has been eating gluten for 63 years. The 3-year-old can defend himself because they still have the villi in their intestines, which allow them to absorb nutrients. And they're getting baby vitamins and their formulas. We'll talk about the formulas in a second. Right. And so let's look at the numbers by age. And this is from the Center for Disease Control just a couple of weeks ago. When you look at babies that are newborn to 3 years of age, their risk of dying from COVID when they get the COVID infection is 0.06%, not even 10% or 1/10%. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you look at the 18-year-olds for 44-year-olds, it's 3.9% will die. When you look at 45 to 64-year-olds, 22% will die. You're looking at 65 to 74 years old, 25% will die. You're looking at 75%, or excuse me, 75 years old plus is 48% will die. So it's an age thing based on how long they've been eating gluten, their intestines are dead. Because what is required? What is required to fight the COVID virus or any virus or syphilis or HIV or whatever? Okay, what's the mechanism? Well, you have to be able to absorb nutrients from your intestines. And if your villi are dead from gluten, you can't do that. Right. If your villi are dead from gluten, you cannot absorb nutrients. Goes out the other end into the septic tank. And people who can't absorb nutrients get all these nutritional deficiency diseases, which doctors thought were genetic, are related to old age. Or related to old age. Well, it turns out they're just nutritional deficiencies and they're age related, not because of chronology, because when you're eating gluten for 30, 40, 50 years, it's longer than 3 years. Okay. The next thing that happens is your bone marrow has to be alive and ready to go. If you have osteoporosis, you have bone marrow dysplasia. Your bone marrow is now connective tissue, scar tissue, and fat. You cannot make white blood cells or antibodies, red blood cells, or platelets. Now, you know of people, Alan, you know of people in your family, your business, your neighbors, whatever, who have to go to the doctor once a month to get a B12 shot and an iron shot because they tried, they were anemic, and the doctors told them to take some iron pills, and they didn't help them because they couldn't absorb the iron. So they had to go get an iron shot every month or a B12 shot or both. And after a year or two, they get tired of that and they say, okay, well, let's just give you a transfusion every month or so, and you'll get the red blood cells, they're already made, you'll get the platelets, it won't bleed on your skin, you won't bruise easily and all that kind of stuff. But after a year or so, that they didn't like that either. Okay, we're not going to do that. And they say, okay, well, you have good insurance. Don't worry about it. it's a $250,000 procedure, but insurance will pay for it. It's called bone marrow transplant. And all they had to do is get off of gluten for 2 weeks and take the 90 essential nutrients, and they wouldn't have had to gone through all that for 30, 40 years.
Right. When Doc mentions the 90 essential nutrients, there's you can call this number here and get more information about that. That's Vital Health News, 888-275-7755. That's longevity. So go ahead, Doc. We're interested in what you're saying.
Okay, now here we go. Now, what are the red warning lights? What are the things that says you're going to be susceptible to the COVID? Okay. And remember, we went a year and a half without a vaccination after we knew COVID was there. They didn't even say it may not even work, but try the flu vaccine. They didn't do that. They just said it ain't approved for this disease. Don't do it. Okay. And what did we get for that? As of this morning, we have 29,370,705 infections from COVID in the United States alone. Oh, no. Yeah, that's America alone. That's in America alone. And we have 529,281 dead. Okay. Now let's look at, see, we have 332 million people. Let's look at China with 1.4 billion people, about 5 times our population. They have, let's see here. China has 4,000 dead. We have 529,000 dead. China has 90,000 infected, and we have 29 million infected. What's the difference between them and us? They're both vertebrates. Okay, they're both human beings. They're obviously susceptible to COVID, but why do they have only 8% of the deaths we've got, and and 2% of the infections? So what's going on here? What's going on? Well, I'll give you 2 more pieces, and then I think you'll figure it out. Let's look at Texas versus Vietnam. Kind of a similar relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. Texas has 29 million people. Vietnam has 96 million people. About 5 times. Texas is about 20%, 25% of the Vietnam numbers.
Population.
Vietnam, population. Texas has, let's see here. Texas has 2,672,000 infections and 44,000 dead. Vietnam has 35 dead, not 35,000, just 35 dead and 2,000 infections. But yet they have 3 times the population of Texas. What's going on there? Well, it's the same thing. Okay. Let's look at New York. You're from New York, aren't you?
Yep. I'm in New York right now. Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at New York.
I'm not eating gluten, though. I'll tell you that much. But go ahead.
Do not eat gluten. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Let's look at New York City with a population of 8,336,000. Has 20,000 dead and 718,000 infections. You look at New York State with 20 million people. Okay, right now their numbers are 1.7 million infected and 48,000 dead. Okay. Well, again, let's look at Thailand with 67 million people. Okay, which is 3.5 times the population of New York State. Let's look at Thailand, 67 million people. They have 83 dead. Okay, versus 44,000 dead. And they have 26,000 infections versus 1.7 million. So why this huge difference? Okay, even though they're 3 times the population of New York State, and it's weird. Well, it's the same relationship that Texas has with Vietnam. When you look at the Asian diet, the Asians live on rice and sweet potatoes and frijoles, beans, and also they eat, let's see here, kelp and seaweed and stuff like that. And they're getting the trace minerals from the seaweed, okay, and the algae in the oceans. That's all these Asians eat that stuff.
Right.
And how much gluten is in rice?
None,
0.
I think. 0. Yeah.
No, 0. How much gluten is in sweet potatoes?
Probably 0.
Okay. How much gluten is in maize, aka corn?
I guess nothing.
0. Right. Okay.
So what has gluten then? It's wheat and
barley,
oats.
Wheat, barley, rye, and oats.
Okay.
Okay. And you can get it from drinking beer made from those things, Scotch bourbon and rye whiskey. Okay. Desserts, bread, pancakes, spaghetti.
Yeah.
People who run these restaurants to sell spaghetti at dinner every night and flour tortillas for lunch every day, they kill more people than the communists. Okay. I don't know how to say it any other way. Now, let me just say, you got some, we got red warning lights here. Okay. And so what I did, I began to look at all the states. Okay. And what was their population of Latinos and Blacks compared with their death rates? So you already know the answer, right? Okay. Let's look at California. Okay. With 3.5 million infections and 51,000 dead. They have 39% Latinos and Hispanics and 8% Black. Look at Texas with 2.6 million infections and 43,000 dead. They have 39%, just the same as California, Latinos, but 14% Black. Let's look at Florida with 1.9 million infections and 30 million dead. No, it's not 30,000 dead, 30,000 dead. They have 25% Latinos and 18% Black. And let's just.
I just want to point out, we're not talking about race or culture. We're talking about lifestyle habits of these.
Diet. Just solely diet. Solely diet. I don't care what their habits are. I don't care if they're gay or they play basketball or they don't. It doesn't matter. It's their diet.
It's their eating. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So let's look at Pennsylvania now. Okay. They have 900,000 infections and 24,000 dead. Let's look at, let's see here. Let me give you two more here. Let's look at Tennessee with 5% Latinos. Okay, they have 770,000 infections and 11,000 dead. Let's look at Hawaii with 10% Latinos and 4% Black. They have 27,000 infections and 400 dead. And let's look at New Mexico with 48%. They have the highest rate of percentage of Latinos is New Mexico and 3% Black. They have 183,000 infections and only 3,000 dead. So what's the difference? Well, I checked out. The Latinos in New Mexico are not the same people as the Latinos in all other 49 states.
Oh, really?
The Latinos in all the other 49 states come from Mexico and South America and blah, 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 through the border.
Right.
But New Mexico, going back to the 1920s when they were coming along, all of the Latinos there came from Spain. And they're living on Spanish rice, potatoes, okay? You get and maize and corn.
You've really done your research on this, actually.
Yes, yeah, because I go where it points me to, and then I look at all the possibilities in that area. And so it's unimpeachable. I'm going to write a big paper. This is going to be a big hoo-ha. This is going to be like the next Lost Horizon here. Okay.
Great. No, we're looking for that. We need that. We need that this time.
Okay. Now let me give you one more important piece here. These are the official, pre-existing conditions, early warning signals, red warning lights. Okay. Number one, you have to appreciate that you're looking at appendicitis. Okay, because that's a gluten thing. Okay, it's a gluten thing. And then you're looking at pre-existing conditions like diabetes, it's a nutritional deficiency, obesity is a nutritional deficiency, lung diseases like asthma, bronchitis, COPD is a nutritional deficiency, autoimmune disease like lupus is a nutritional deficiency disease. There are no such things as autoimmune disease. It was all crapola science by doctors. Okay, and then you have the high blood pressure. That's a nutritional deficiency thing. Asthma, a nutritional deficiency thing. Kidney disease, 99% of the time when they put you on dialysis, there's nothing wrong with your kidney. Well, I haven't peed in 10 years, Wallach, and I have to be on dialysis. Well, you could get a kidney transplant. Well, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, let me put you on my program. And in 2 weeks' time, after 10 years of not urinating, they'll urinate. And they reduce them from 6 days a week dialysis to 2 days a week. And then 2 more weeks, you're totally off of dialysis after they've been on dialysis for 25 years because they didn't want to get a kidney transplant.
So okay, let me give you two. If they go on your program, that will regenerate the kidneys, you're saying also, right?
Well, there's never anything wrong with the kidneys. It's the arteries taking the dirty blood into the kidneys that were blocked. And that's why the kidneys couldn't do their job. See, when I was a pathology student, they're bringing me trays of all these kidneys that were taken from people who were getting kidney transplants. They're bringing me, quote, the diseased, unquote, kidneys. I'm looking at them under the microscope and I said, there's nothing wrong with these kidneys. Did you get them out of the right people? Yeah, we double checked. Okay. And so I looked deeper. It was the arteries are plugged that are coming into the kidneys, bringing the dirty blood in. And the kidneys release a hormone called renin. You ask your doctor, he's ever heard of renin? No. Well, he hadn't heard about it. Well, renin is a hormone that your kidneys will release when it's not getting enough dirty blood. Raises your blood pressure to try and drive more blood into the kidneys.
So how do you clean the arteries then?
We have a program for that. You get off all the bad foods, no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, brown, rye, oats, no sugar. And then you take what we call the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, 1 per 100 pounds of body weight. And then you throw in the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, 3 of those twice a day per 100 pounds of body weight. And usually within 2 to 4 weeks, the blood pressure is down into the normal range and the arteries are clean, because the blockages in your arteries are not due to cholesterol. That was all crapola science. That is not true. There is no cholesterol in the blockages in your arteries. It didn't cause it. Well, I had to have a double coronary artery bypass surgery. Well, that's not because, well, I know I didn't have any cholesterol because I was on statin drugs. Well, how's your sex life? Well, I have, you know, I've got this stuff where I got to take testosterone and all that kind of stuff because I have, what's it called when you can't get it up?
Right. All that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so I want you to eat 3 eggs twice a day with soft yolks. Hard-boiled eggs won't count. But my doctor said, well, your doctor's killing you.
Right.
Box up the statin drugs and give it to your doctor with love, just like 007 used to do. To Russia with love, give your statin drugs to your doctor with love. You're
saying they're removing body parts, organs that are not, that should not be removed. That's kind of radical.
In some cases, that's right. Now, I'll tell you what, you ever heard of Alzheimer's disease?
I've heard of that. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Alzheimer's disease is a physician-caused disease. It's not a genetic thing. It's not an age thing. It's
what do you mean? How are physicians?
Okay. Very good question. You must be an Indian. How? Okay. So, dementias existed since Bible days. There's 12 different types of dementias, but doctors call all of them Alzheimer's disease because when you look at the payout list, guess what disease pays out the most? So no matter what dementia you got, they call all of them Alzheimer's disease. Remember, I'm a pathologist. I get to look at all this stuff, right? So it turns out that there's a guy by the name of Ray McGregor from North Carolina. His sister calls me about 25 years ago, and this will tell the story. My brother Ray was diagnosed 25 years earlier with Alzheimer's disease. The doctors put him on pharmaceuticals for Alzheimer's disease. And in 3 years' time, he goes into a coma. He's been into a coma in a nursing home for 10 years, 10, 12 years, whatever it was. And they've been feeding him Enfamil, you know, that artificial diet thing, Enfamil, in through his, not the baby formula, what's the other one? It comes in a can. It's a artificial diet.
Yeah, it's that kind of, that powdered
made out of oil.
The formula.
Yeah. Okay. So they're giving them.
Sure.
What?
What's that, Carolyn? Did you say something? It's okay. Go ahead. Keep going. I think Carolyn. Yeah.
Okay. So they're giving him this meal replacer.
Ensure.
Thank you. That's it. Yeah. Ensure. Very good. Thank you. Ensure. We're giving him Ensure 3 times a day for 8 years. He's in this coma. They're feeding him through his G tube. Now, after 8-10 years being fed Ensure through his G tube, his sister calls me crying on the radio saying, my brother Ray. Well, what's the matter with your brother Ray? Well, he's been on this artificial food, this Ensure stuff through a G tube. He's been in a coma since he went, after 3 years being treated for Alzheimer's disease, he goes into this coma and his brain waves are 0 now. And they want to just pull the plug because they need the room for somebody who has a chance of living and blah, blah, blah. So we'll get 90 days. If you want me to help you, you got to get 90 days. Even if you have to pay extra, get 90 days. Okay, I'll do that. Whatever it takes, I'll get 90 days. And so what I want you to do is get our shake, the Youngevity shake, but make it with heavy cream, not water. Make it with heavy cream. Okay, I want you to give them 3 doses a day. Our shake with a heavy cream at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I want him to have 3 eggs with soft yolks whipped up and put into that shake at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I want him to have the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, 3 of those ground up and put into those shakes 3 times a day in case he's got vascular dementia. Then I also want him to have 3 of our de-stress capsules in each of those shakes because there's 2 dementias that are caused by nutritional or vitamin deficiencies, and so forth. And then I want you to call me every 2 weeks and give me an update, or if the doctor gives you some kind of statement or update, call me, but don't wait longer than 2 weeks. Well, she calls me in 3 days and she is screaming and moaning and, oh God, he's dead and they're going to blame me and blah, blah, blah. So what's happening with your brother Ray? And she's just screaming his name, Brother Ray, Brother Ray. I said, okay, what's going on? She says, well, he woke up this morning completely normal. He thought he'd only been asleep one night. He didn't realize he was in a coma for 8-10 years, whatever it was.
Wow.
And he gets dressed, goes back to work at the bank. Now, he was a bank officer. Now, none of the people there today were there 8 years ago when he went into the coma.
Right.
And he's claiming he's the vice president of the bank, and they're thinking he's a clever crook trying to rob the bank, saying he's a bank officer, right? And so that's the sort of stuff I do. Okay, I do this thousands of times, just like these people are on dialysis 6 times a week for 10 years because they haven't peed in 10 years.
Yeah, right.
That sort of stuff. That's easy to get rid of. Okay, now, I gave you all the New York figures. Okay, and I gave you, I think, some Pennsylvania figures. I gave you all these other comparison figures.
Right.
If everybody in America were to live like an Asian and eat rice, sweet potatoes, beans, corn, nothing fried, no processed meats and so forth, no oils, no gluten, and take the 90 essential nutrients. And of course, this is why we have the books. It tells you the history of how we had all these pandemics.
Yeah. Name some of your best books that people can look for?
Okay. Well, I like, the beginners, they want to get the 4 books. I used to call them the trilogy books, but now it's the quartet of books. Let's Play Doctor, Let's Play Herbal Doctor, Passport to Aromatherapy, It's All in Your Head, and learn how to deal with over 600 different diseases using vitamins, minerals, and trace minerals. We also have in that set is Let's Play Herbal Doctor. Okay. Let's Play, Passport to Aromatherapy. And then the last one, It's All in Your Head, because there's 25 different diseases you can get from just having osteoporosis of the skull. Have you ever heard of a doctor talk about osteoporosis of the skull? No, it's always the legs.
I've never heard it besides what you've said about it. Yes.
Okay. Well, there is a book now. It goes into the 25 major diseases, including dementias, including you lose your sense of smell. Well, isn't that an early warning signal of COVID? No. It's an early warning signal of osteoporosis of the skull. Now, when you have osteoporosis of the skull, it's squeezing the first cranial nerve, which is the olfactory nerve.
Right.
And it doesn't work. So you lose your sense of smell. Well, I survived COVID, but I still have lost my sense of smell. My doctor says, well, that's the aftermath of the COVID. No, you have osteoporosis of the skull. You need to get a different doctor and get the book. Now, what's important about osteoporosis of the skull when you got COVID? Well, that's because you had osteoporosis of your leg bones, your arm bones, your pelvis, your vertebrae, and you couldn't make red blood cells, you couldn't make platelets, you couldn't make antibodies, you couldn't make white blood cells to go and kill and eat the viruses. Right.
But okay, I think we so if your intestines are full up of gluten, they're not going to be able to make the red blood cells and access the nutrients that will supply your bones with the power to grow and
make antibodies and white blood cells and your defenses. Now, here's the crazy thing about this. Now we're going to talk a moment or two about the vaccines.
Good.
Okay. Now, the vaccines, of course, have like about a dozen variants now. There's the New York variant, there's a Brazil variant, there's a UK variant, there's a South African variant. Okay. There's the California variant, there's the San Diego variant. And the variants are 70% more infective than the original COVID, and they're many times more deadly than the original COVID. Now, let's look at the vaccine themselves. The vaccines, of course, do not kill viruses or bacteria or fungus and yeast. They just alert your body to the bad DNA and RNA in the viruses, bacteria, and yeast. So when the bad guy comes, your body says, there's some bad guys. So it sends the white blood cells and the platelets and the antibodies to go kill and eat the bad guys.
It alerts it. Your body is not alert on its own to this.
No, you got to be sensitized, and that's what the vaccinations do.
Oh, so you're for vaccinations. You feel it's a good thing.
Well, now they're totally different. Let's look at polio. Polio is one of the most successful vaccination programs ever.
Right.
Why is that? Well, because polio is a kid's disease.
Right.
And they vaccinated everybody, grandmas and kids and everything. And they got rid of polio in like weeks.
Right.
Jonas Salk deservedly got the Nobel Prize for that.
Right.
Well, why is that? Well, because those kids still had their villi. They hadn't been eating gluten for 30 years, where grandma, she wasn't going to get it anyway because it was a kid's virus.
Right. So for the COVID virus, you're saying there's an upside of learning the body, but you also said, or you hinted there was a downside.
Okay, now the vaccinations are a downside, okay,
Oh,
because
okay.
people feel safe. Well, I can go hang out with all the people with COVID because I'm vaccinated.
Right.
I've had my second shot. Now I'm starting to get calls, Alan, people saying, well, I took my mom and my grandmom to get vaccinated, a couple of months ago. They got the second shot a month ago, and grandma just died from COVID. How can that be? She was vaccinated twice.
Yeah.
Well,
How
what was it?
can that be? That's
Okay, well, here's the question I asked him. Do you ever see grandma eat breakfast? Well, yeah. I mean, my mom and dad worked on the weekends, so every weekend I was with my grandma. What did she eat for Saturday and Sunday for breakfast? Oatmeal and pancakes and waffles and bagels.
But so what did the
Gluten,
vaccine
gluten,
do?
gluten, gluten, gluten,
Right. So
gluten.
she hasn't changed about, so the vaccine was
It
not
did not
effective.
protect her. Did
So,
not protect her, but she thought she was protected because she had the vaccine. So she didn't give a rat's butt. She went to all these places where all these sick people were because she was vaccinated.
so what
But she
did the
couldn't get,
vaccination really do then?
for her, nothing.
Oh, okay.
Nothing.
So
Okay.
why did she, what should people do then if they are,
Get off of gluten and eat like an Asian, for God's sakes.
okay. So they don't need the vaccine in that case, but you might as well
Well,
get
okay,
it.
okay. Well, let's give you
Okay.
one comparison, another
Okay.
comparison here. Let's
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
Arizona versus Hong
Okay.
Kong. Same
Okay.
population, 7.5 million people each. Arizona
Mhm.
and Hong Kong. Hong Kong has 11,000 infections and 199 dead.
Mhm.
Arizona, same population, 7.5 million. They have
Mhm.
816,000 infections and 16,000 dead. Is
Right.
16,000 dead more than 199 dead? Is
Right.
800,000 infections more than 11,000 infections? That's because Hong Kong eats seaweed, okay, and algae, and fish, and rice, and sweet potatoes. Okay, now let's look at one. Again, the Native Americans, the indigenous peoples, they have the highest rate, okay,
Right. They
of
do.
deaths from,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Now let's look at this. Let's look at the native tribe that has the highest rate and versus the native tribe that has the lowest rate. Because it's not all
Okay.
the same, it varies. Well, let's look at the
Okay.
Navajos in Arizona. Okay. They have the same population as the Ojibwe Indians from the lake area. What is it? Millie Lac, Minnesota. Okay. The Navajo Indians in Arizona, same populations as the Ojibwe Indians in Minnesota, have 29,000 infections and 1.2 thousand dead,
Okay.
1,200 dead. The Ojibwe Indians from Minnesota, same population as the Navajos, have 27 infections, not 2,700, not 27,000, just 27 infections and 0 dead.
Different diet, right? I bet it's a different.
You got it. You got it,
Okay.
Alan. Okay,
I know
here it is.
this is a great lecture here
Okay.
on how to take care of
Okay.
yourself. Really.
Okay. Now here's the diet. The
Yeah.
Navajos in 1860 started eating fried flatbread made out of wheat because the Scottish introduced them to wheat in 1860.
Mhm.
They've been eating
Right.
fried flatbread ever since then, made out of wheat. They also eat oatmeal for breakfast and all that kind of stuff, right? And
Yeah.
the Ojibwe, 400 years ago, in the year 1600, the colonists started coming to America, and there was lots of hurricanes and things. So the Ojibwe Indians started out in Florida. They started migrating west, and in the spring of the year 1600, 400 years ago, right?
Right.
Okay, they landed in this lake area of Minnesota. They didn't have any money, so they couldn't buy land to grow corn and beans and stuff like that. So they just lived on the lake shores, and they began to eat the wild rice out of the lakes and the algae out of the lakes, and they got rabbits and and fish and things like that. Well, they liked it, and they realized they weren't getting sick anymore, so they stayed on the wild rice and the algae for 400 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they have 27 infected and 0 dead. Same population when the Navajos are eating fried flatbread made out of wheat and eating wheat and barley, rye, and oats, and they're all the other kind of stuff that goes along with that. And their beer, which the Ojibways drink wine. They actually drink wine, whereas the Navajos, they drink beer. 29,000 infections versus 27 infections. 1,200 dead versus 0 dead.
Okay. Yes.
They're both
Yeah.
indigenous peoples. I'm not comparing Europeans.
Right.
Okay.
No, I think that's a good point. I just have a question online, and then we'll go to Carolyn, who has a lot of
Okay.
questions for you.
Okay.
Someone says they eat fat and bone broth. Bone broth must be good, right? I mean, what do you think about that?
I ate bone broth for the first 18 years of my life. Grandma would take the bones from our meal from that day and put them on the wood stove. We didn't have electricity until I was 9. I was eating wood ashes for the first 9 years of my life. Okay, I was eating wood ashes as a supplement and putting it in the garden. And there's a long story that goes along with that. But we would also put this pot on the wood stove at night and fill the stove up with wood. And the bones would simmer, put a few drops of vinegar in there. And we would all throw the dice to see who would get the bone broth that day.
Right. So you believe in bone broth. Great.
Oh,
yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
You got to get the books. It's all in the books.
At Get Doc's books. What's the book that talks about bone broth and bones and building strong bones?
Well, okay, I would go with two books. One is, of course, if you're part of the Black population, I would go with the Black Gene Lies book and the Black Gene Lies CD. I would go with the epigenetics book and the epigenetic CDs. I would also go with the Hell's Kitchen book and the Hell's Kitchen CD. And lastly, I would go with the Rare Earths Been Cures book, because in chapter 9 and 10, it tells you how to get a hair analysis. Don't forget to put the check in there, because they won't run the test without the check. Right. And when you do a hair analysis, you're going to find out if you're absorbing, if your villi are dead because you've been eating too much gluten. You can find out from that test. And then also you'll find out what minerals are low that you need to supplement extra with. Okay, so it's worth the test.
Great. Okay, Carolyn has a couple of questions. Are we ready for some questions at this point? Because she always has some great things to add. Okay,
let's do it.
Carolyn, you are up and ready to go.
Okay, Doc. This gentleman is 58 years old, 200 pounds. He called in with PMR, polymyalgia, and
rheumatica,
or RA. He also has knee issues, and he thinks maybe osteoporosis.
And I apologize. How old did you say he was?
He's 58 and 200 pounds.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, he's got osteoporosis. I guarantee he's got osteoporosis of the skull. And if you ask him if he had ringing in his ears, he'd probably have ringing in his ears, and he'd have Meniere's disease, which is his balance problems, and so for the squeezing of the 8th cranial nerve. People who get things like heart problems, rapid heart rate, tachycardia, low, slow heart rate, bradycardia. They get irregular heartbeat, okay, AFib, atrial fibrillation. It's all this osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing the 10th cranial nerve. You get hiccups, COPD. That's all osteoporosis of the skull causing those things, okay? And so this guy here, 200 pounds, needs to get off all the bad foods. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, bar, rye, and oats, no sugar. And he needs to be on 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month. And how long should he be doing that? Forever, for life, not just until he feels better, but forever, okay? And then if he has RA, rheumatoid arthritis, or something that goes along with that, polymyalgia rheumatica, he needs to also get a prescription for 6 weeks for an antibiotic, okay, called minocycline. Rheumatoid arthritis is not an autoimmune disease like doctors want you to believe it is, okay? It's actually caused by a bug called mycoplasma, which is killable with minocycline. It takes 6 weeks of that antibiotic to kill the mycoplasma. And but he also needs some MSM. I'd have him get 2 bottles of our MSM, so he can take 3 of those with each meal. That's going to help rebuild his knees, his disc between his vertebrae, his cartilage, the bone matrix in his skull. He also needs vitamin D3. He needs to take 3 of those twice a day. It's 2 bottles a month. And lastly, I'd get him our collagen. He needs 5 of our glucogel capsules twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. And then email us every couple of weeks, because he's going to have a great testimony. All these things will go away. None of them are genetic. None of them are autoimmune. They're all nutritional deficiencies, except for that RA, which can pile on top of bone-to-bone arthritis, particularly in the knees and the hips and shoulders. And it's an infection on top of a nutritional deficiency arthritis or osteoporosis. And the minocycline will kill that one in 6 weeks.
Thank you. The next one is a lady who's 63, 175 pounds with lupus, low heart rate. She has a pacemaker. She also has blurry vision, and of course, she wants to lose weight. So that's what's happening with her.
Okay, she's got osteoporosis of the skull. She's got a skin problem because when you're diagnosed with lupus, you usually have rosacea on your face. It's a form of things like, anything going on with the skin. Okay, psoriasis, that kind of stuff. Okay, and also bowel problems. This irregular and slow heart rate, bradycardia, and maybe even AFib is due to osteoporosis of the skull. That's why she's got blurry vision, because she's also getting a squeezing of the second cranial nerve, the optic nerve, okay, called ONA, optic nerve atrophy. And she doesn't have cataracts. She doesn't have glaucoma. She doesn't have macular degeneration, but she's getting blurry vision. That's because the skull is squeezing that second cranial nerve. Okay, so at 170 pounds, 175 pounds, I want her to get rid of all the bad foods, no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, brown rhinos, no sugar. She needs to take 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, a full dose of everything twice a day. I want her to have the MSM, take 3 of those 3 times a day. That's 2 bottles a month. Vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. She needs the collagen. She needs 5 of our glucogel capsules twice a day. That is 2 bottles a month there. And for the heart issue, but also throw in the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, 2 bottles a month of that. So you can take 3 of those twice a day. It'll support healthy blood pressure, healthy blood flow through blocked arteries in the brain, the heart, the eyes, the kidneys, and everywhere else. And then again, we want them to contact us on a regular basis every couple of weeks, anytime she goes to the doctor, and get some feedback, because these stories are typical of literally millions of people in America. And so it's one of those things where their testimony will help other people make the right moves.
Yes. The next one is a gentleman, 63 years old, 190 pounds, with trigger finger for so long. He was considering surgery, and he's given us 90 days. And that's
Okay.
That's really all he called with.
Okay. Well, trigger finger, okay, has to do with osteoporosis of the skull. Well, why is that? Well, because your spinal cord is formed in the brain. Most people think it's a spinal thing. Your spinal cord is formed in the brain, comes out of that big hole in the back of your skull called the foramen magnum, which is Latin for big hole. Okay. And as your skull gets thicker, as you have osteoporosis, you're making more connective tissue and less minerals. All those tunnels that those 12 pairs of cranial nerves and the spinal cord go through get smaller and start squeezing the nerves and squeezing the spinal cord. When you squeeze the spinal cord, you start getting things like shoulder issues, arm issues, carpal tunnel syndrome, trigger finger, all that kind of stuff, because all the nerves are being squeezed, okay, in the spinal cord and in the cervical area and the upper spinal cord, and causing downstream. It's just like when you have sciatica and you're getting pain and numbness in your toes and things like that. Where's the real problem at? It's in your back. It's in your back. It could also be in your brain, squeezing the spinal cord up there. Okay. And so it could be both the spinal cord being squeezed as it's coming out of the skull and the lumbar area of the back, or it could be just the lumbar area of the back. Either way. So this guy here at 190 pounds needs to get rid of all the bad stuff. No fried, you've heard this before, no fried food, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, brown rhinos, no sugar. 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, full dose of everything twice a day. 2 bottles a month of the MSM, take 3 of those 3 times a day. 2 bottles a month of the vitamin D3, take 3 of those twice a day. 2 bottles a month of the glucogel capsules, so you can take 5 twice a day. And let's see here. What I want them also to do is get some of our CM cream and our trauma oil, mix that up real good, because it tends to settle at night. Mix it up real good, so not just putting water on the back of his neck. But I want him to put that CM cream and the trauma oil mixed together on the back of his head, where the spinal cord comes out into the neck. Okay, and it's going to relieve a lot of swelling, so you'll get benefit very quickly from doing that. Okay.
All right.
I just want to ask one question. How the difference between male and female diets? Is there a big difference about what they eat and the nutrients they absorb and the digestive functions of men and women?
No.
Okay.
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 And so you have to appreciate that there's a little bit of difference in diseases and disease by, in fact, I'm glad you asked that question, by gender,
Yeah.
which I didn't
Right,
mention earlier when we
gender.
were talking about age. Let's look at gender.
Yeah.
Men will get COVID and die of COVID at double the rate that women do.
Why is that?
Okay, well, what's the difference between a woman's diet and a man's diet? Well, a woman doesn't want to get fat and get wrinkles and everything. So she is avoiding anything with calories in it. She's staying away from spaghetti. That third's helping us spaghetti.
Okay.
5 pancakes for breakfast and beer 3 nights
Carolyn
a week.
is smiling. I guess that's anyway. Yes. Okay.
Where the guys, they're having their stack of pancakes and a big bowl of oatmeal. They're having spaghetti 3 nights a week, and they're having flour tortillas. Okay.
All right.
At the Mexican restaurant at lunch every day. And that's why their intestines are dead. And women tend to take supplements more than men do.
Yeah.
Now,
All right,
listen,
that's good.
last
Oh,
one.
go ahead.
I have
Go ahead,
more.
Carolyn.
One
go ahead.
more. This young man, 37, 180 pounds, has anxiety, muscle pains, and GERD.
Okay, GERD is kind of like belching, burping, and bloating kind of stuff.
Yes.
Okay, muscle pain, GERD, and what was the other one? I missed the first one.
Anxiety.
Oh, anxiety. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any time that you're not getting all the nutrients, things go wrong with biochemical things in your brain and your heart and your muscles and your bones, your liver and all that kind of stuff, right? I get people who say to me, why do I have fatty liver disease? I don't drink alcohol. Well, do you take supplements? No. Do you eat oatmeal for breakfast? Oh, that's my favorite. Been eating oatmeal for breakfast all my life because my grandma taught me how to do that. Well, what about spaghetti? Well, I go to spaghetti factory 3 nights a week and have 6 helpings of spaghetti because, you know, you pay one price, you get all you can eat. Well, that's why you're having all these problems, okay? You need at 180 pounds, get rid of all the bad stuff. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, butter, iodine, no sugar. And then I want them to take 2 healthy brain and heart packs a month, full dose everything twice a day. The MSM, 3 of those with each meal, that's 2 bottles a month. Vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day, 2 bottles a month. Then I also want to have the de-stress capsules. The de-stress capsules, take 3 of those twice a day, okay? That will help with all the various biochemical connections in the brain, so the brain can make all the things they need to brain to work with and so forth. And then we also have Synaptive. I want them to take 3 of those twice a day. That's the raw materials for your brain cells to make the biochemistry that's necessary so the brain cells can talk to each other, okay? And then he can take the ultimate enzymes, take 2 or 3 of those, say 5 to 10 minutes for each meal, a couple ounces of water. And then lastly, I want them to use our Rebound or sports drink. Do not use colas. Do not drink big glasses of orange juice and grape juice and apple juice and stuff like that. It's just sugar for the bugs in your intestine. So why do you have bugs in your intestine? Why do you have bugs in your stomach? Well, you have bugs in your stomach because you're avoiding salt, aren't you? Well, yeah, my doctor says I'll get high blood pressure if I eat salt. Well, change doctors because your doctor needs to go to jail. Okay, you need salt. Salt is an essential nutrient. It has actually 2 essential nutrients in it. You have to have stomach acid to be able to digest proteins. Okay, so you can't make salt. You have to eat it. So that's why we in our savor division, our spice division, we have the pink Himalayan salt, which I use for breakfast with 85 minerals in it. We also have our pink Himalayan salt with black pepper in it. I use that at dinner time, and I put it on my rice, and I put it on my sweet potatoes, and I put it on my lamb chops and my steak and all that kind of stuff. If you go back into the old days, who are the people that did good things? They were the salts of the earth. Okay.
Yes,
salt
exactly.
is a good thing. Salt is a good thing. It's essential nutrients. And anybody tells you to restrict salt needs to go to jail.
Okay, but then you don't want table salt. It's probably better to have the Himalayan salt, right? That's what you're saying.
Well, it's better to have the Himalayan salt because it has more nutrition in it other than just sodium chloride. But the sodium chloride will give you sodium chloride. Now, here's the problem. In the old days, okay, when people were wanting to sell it, you know, they were selling pure salt, just sea salt, and then doctors were saying, well, you know, you're getting all this extra stuff and you're getting terrible bad things from the salt. If we just get it down to sodium chloride, that'll be easier. Okay.
Right. But you don't want to do too much salt. I mean, you can do too much, right?
Well, the odds of you doing too much are pretty slim because you'll say, oh, it's too salty and you won't need it.
Exactly. Your body will tell you.
Yeah, that's why you have taste buds.
Okay, that's good. Okay, one more question, and then Doc has to go because he is a busy guy. He speaks to what, 1 million people a week all over the world on Facebook events. He's
There's
very,
2
very
million people a day now.
2 million people a day he reaches. So
Awesome.
we are lucky, Carolyn, to have him here with us and
Yes,
everyone
we are.
listening.
And
Okay.
the last one is a gentleman who is 77, 150 pounds, prostate issues, macular degeneration, hernia.
Okay. Do
All
they
seems,
say,
Doc, I just want to comment on those symptoms. They all do seem related in some ways, don't they?
okay, we have prostate problems. He's 77 years old. It's not an age issue. He's 150 pounds, and he has this macular degeneration. It's kind of an eye thing. The lining of the eye is somehow going away. Okay, and he's got a hernia. Did he say if it's a belly button hernia or an inguinal hernia?
He did not say where it was.
Okay, well, he needs to get a truss, you know, one of these big pads with a belt to put over the hernia and hold the guts in, whether it's a belly button hernia or an inguinal hernia down between his legs. Okay, and so he needs to get a truss, wear that during his waking day. And then at 150 pounds, I want him to get rid of all the bad stuff. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat bran, and no sugar. Then I want him to have 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, a full dose thing twice a day. I want him to take the MSM, 3 of those 3 times a day. That's 2 bottles a month. Vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. The Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, that's for blood pressure and that sort of stuff, and getting blood flow through blocked arteries. I want him to take 3 of those 3 times a day because he's got a prostate issue. And so take the 3 of the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets 3 times a day. That's 3 bottles a month. And then 2 other things. Number one, I want to take our Prostifex. You can take 3 of those capsules that are designed specifically for the metabolism of the prostate gland. I'm going to take 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. And then I want him to take 3 of the Zeratest tablets twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. XERA-test, Zeratest. That gives the Sertoli cells in the testicles what they need to actually make testosterone. So if he's, and usually they won't say it, you know, on something like this, but if they have ED, erectile dysfunction, it goes along with the prostate thing and so forth. Do not get surgery. And all these things go away by getting rid of the bad foods so you can absorb and get rid of the inflammation.
What was that thing that you talked about making testosterone? Because it also increases sperm count too, doesn't it?
Yes, that's correct. That's the Zeratest, XERA-TEST.
And that's longevity product. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I never recommend anybody else's product as a longevity product. We actually have a Zerafem for girls too. They're going through menopause earlier, or you're not cycling and want to have babies and all kind of stuff. We have a Zerafem for the girls. Okay, they help.
And the one for men is the zero. What's
test.
the one?
Zeratest.
And the Zerafem.
Zera. Yeah.
Zera.
Okay, Zera. Yeah.
How do you spell that? How do you spell Zera?
XERA.
Okay, Zera. Okay.
And
And
now, this guy also needs to eat 3 eggs twice a day with soft yolks. Hard-boiled eggs won't count.
Right.
And the reason is testosterone is 95% by weight cholesterol. So if you get on statin drugs and you're getting off of cholesterol, there ain't nobody home anymore. You got ED and you got a divorce.
Right. So it seems like everything you're saying comes down to the absorption of minerals in the small intestine, because if you don't get the minerals, your rest of your body's going to suffer from it.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Great. So,
and you will not get the benefit. You will not get the benefit of vaccinations.
Right. So Doc, because of his years of research, started this company, Longevity, which makes all these products that he is recommending here. You can call this number 888-275-7755. And you can just ask questions. Sometimes Carolyn's on the line, answering phone calls. And I recommend this. We're going to do this again in about 2 weeks, and get your questions ready because Doc has answers for all of them, don't you? There's nothing.
Well, I don't know if I don't have answers for all of them, but I have answers for all the mistakes that your doctor has made.
Right.
Because I used to see him on the autopsy table all the time.
Wow. You used to see what the mistakes doctors have made. Yeah.
Now, Alan, I'm going to give you one parting fact here. Now,
Okay.
Johns Hopkins, very famous medical school and hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even I think they're the best hospital we got in America, maybe even the world, Johns Hopkins. I just applaud them, and I just adore them. They came out with a study in August of last year. And in this study, they looked at the top 8 causes of death in American hospitals. Number 1 was heart disease. Now, they didn't say whether they died from the treatment or the disease. Number 2 is cancer. They didn't say if they died from the treatment or the disease. Number 3 was medical errors.
Mm-hmm.
Medical errors, that's treatment,
Yeah.
or lack of treatment.
Right. Or wrong treatments. Yeah.
Or wrong treatment. That's a lack of treatment.
Right.
You're treating them. Yeah, you're treating them okay for sunburn, and they really have a liver problem.
Right. And that is the 3rd leading cause of death in hospitals.
Yeah, in American hospitals and that's Johns Hopkins. I'm just quoting Johns Hopkins. You can look it up. Okay, is medical errors.
That's awful. Yeah. So what are you saying about all this then?
Okay, well, we have responsibility. I've got good insurance and blah, 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 blah. Insurance was the worst thing for human health.
Why is that?
Well, because it got doctors to do anything to get the insurance money. Get you on something that you need every month, so insurance pays them every month. Okay. If everybody they treated died in the first couple of weeks, people would stop going to them. So they love insurance. Okay. Now, insurance treats symptoms. The only pharmaceutical that cures anything is antibiotics. Penicillin will kill gram-positive bacteria, things like staphylococcus and streptococcus.
Right.
Okay, and minocycline will kill the mycoplasma, which causes rheumatoid arthritis. And streptomycin can kill E. coli and salmonella and things like that. But other than those antibiotics, there are no prescription drugs that cure anything. They all treat symptoms. Oh, I just love my doctor. I was in pain for 30 years. In 3 days on this new opioid drug, I was out of pain. I'm going to put my doctor as number 1 in my will.
Right.
But he didn't fix the problem. And in 2 more years, he gets $100,000 by doing a double knee replacement.
Right.
On the same person.
When it could have been avoided by taking the right supplements to supply your body with the minerals it needs.
And avoiding all the bad stuff so you can absorb them.
Right. That's key. Doc, thank you for your time, your wisdom, your years of research, and what you're giving to the public selflessly.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Alan. Lieutenant Colonel Wallach, over and out.
Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn, for being here. Thank you, everyone online. We'll let Dr. go. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Carolyn, you have any final words here? Doc, you can sign off. I'm just going to see if Carolyn has anything but thank you. Okay. Anything, Carolyn, before we close here? You're still you're muted, Carolyn. Okay. Yes.
Get on board with the 90 essential and the super sauce for whatever else you need.
And what's in the super sauce? Do you know?
Yes, those are some of the things you heard today recommended specifically for specific health concerns.
Okay, what specific? Can you just go through them briefly?
Well, like for high blood pressure, Ultimate Daily Classic. For the bones and joints, the MSM, the D3, the CM cream, the trauma oil. We have anti-aging products, which I like to use, Reverse, and things for the skin, hair, and nails. And I mean, that's what we call the super sauce, specifically what you need for what is your health concern, like when we spoke about prostate or women's pregnancy issues.
Great. Thank you, Carolyn, for being here today. We'll see you in 2 weeks, right?
Very good. Thank you, Alan.
And thank you, everyone, for the chat online. And let me know if you have any questions. You can email me at newrealities@earthlink.net. This is Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. See you next time. Thank you, Doc.